The movie kicks off with Ishimori Uka, a shy girl who's always struggled to make friends. She feels lost, like she's stuck in the shadows. One day, as she's lost in thought about which high school to attend, she runs into Remy, a classmate who's known for making her life miserable. As expected, Remy shoves Uka to the ground and mocks her for picking a loser school. Uka grits her teeth and tries to ignore it, her fists clenched tight in frustration. But just as things seem to get worse, a ray of hope appears. Uka spots Miura Kai, a boy with striking lemon-colored hair, always holding a bottle of lemon soda. He strolls up to her with a smile, shakes his soda bottle like it's a magic trick, and tells her she should go to the same high school as him. He promises her it'll be better there. For the first time, Uka's heart lifts as she imagines escaping her torment and finding a fresh start. And just like that, Uka gets accepted into the same school as Kai. On her first day, she rides her bike with a smile on her face, hoping that this new place will be the fresh start she's been waiting for. Meanwhile, Kai's arrival doesn't go unnoticed. His bright personality and eye-catching lemon soda instantly draw attention. But not all of it's positive. Some of the students are jealous, mocking him in front of everyone. Kai, never one to back down, splashes lemon soda on them in retaliation. Unfortunately, Uka's walking by at the worst possible moment, and she gets completely drenched. Kai's face shifts from shock to surprise as he realizes Uka's the one who just got caught in the splash. At first, things seem to improve for Uka as she starts to open up to her new classmates. But that happiness is short-lived. Uka soon discovers that Remy, her worst nightmare, is also attending the same school. In the hallway, Remy starts her usual routine, mocking Uka by calling her stone for staying quiet all the time. The bullying doesn't stop either. Uka's things keep getting thrown in the trash, and once again, she feels powerless. But this time, Kai notices what's going on and steps in. He encourages Uka to stand up for herself, reminding her that even if she doesn't think she can, it's okay to ask for help and find her voice. When Kai offered to help, Uka's hand clenched tight, fighting back the flood of emotions rushing inside her. It wasn't that she didn't want help, she just couldn't bring herself to burden anyone with her problems. So she chose silence, telling herself she needed to be as unyielding as a stone. The very next day, Uka found herself cornered by Remy and her gang once again, this time in a secluded part of the school. Remy demanded that Uka buy her food, but Uka stayed silent, her face hard as stone. Furious, Remy shoved her to the ground, causing a scene that drew the attention of nearby students, including Kai. Kai, seeing Uka's torment once again, crouched down beside her, his eyes filled with pity. He gently offered her help, his voice full of sincerity. And for the first time, Uka couldn't hold it in anymore. She burst into tears and through her sobs, asked Kai for his assistance. Kai's hand softly patted her head as he comforted her, then stood up with determination in his eyes. He turned to Remy and her gang, his voice cold as he warned them never to mess with Uka again, threatening consequences if they did. Remy, stunned into silence, stormed off without saying a word. From that moment on, Uka's days finally started to feel peaceful. She even made 3 new friends, all Kai's friends, Ayumi Endo, Satoru Sato, and Tomoya Takamine. One afternoon, as Kai appeared to be fast asleep at his desk, Uka happily chatted with her new friends. Eventually, they asked her why she had chosen their school. Uka took a deep breath and shared her painful past, confessing how she'd been relentlessly bullied in middle school, left alone with no friends. She had kept her distance from everyone, pretending to be tough as a rock to protect herself and others from her pain. But now someone had rekindled a spark of hope in her, and she was determined to live her high school life like any normal teenager. Little did Uka know, Kai, who had been pretending to sleep, had overheard every word. Then, one fateful day, the teacher rearranged the seating, and Uka found herself sitting next to Kai in the front row. Kai quickly realized Uka's intelligence, and an idea sparked in his mind. During class, he made an announcement joking that anyone who befriended Uka would see their grades improve. The class, taking him seriously, started to approach Uka, eager to befriend her. No longer alone, Uka was greeted warmly by her classmates, and Kai was always there to lend a hand when she needed it. As Kai's attention toward Uka grew, Tomoya couldn't help but wonder if there was something more between them. But when he asked Kai, he just shrugged it off, unwilling to admit what was really on his mind. What Tomoya didn't know was that behind Kai's friendly gestures, he carried a secret of his own. One afternoon, Kai invited Uka to join him and his friends at a cafe for a study session. With exams around the corner, they all needed to study hard. The group was counting on Yuka to help them understand the material, and together they supported each other through the stress. As they settled in, a girl named Serena, accompanied by two of her friends, walked over. Serena, it turned out, was Kai's ex-girlfriend. Even though they'd broken up, they were on good terms. But things quickly took a turn when one of Serena's friends insulted Uka, saying she didn't deserve to sit next to Kai. Furious, Serena grabbed a glass and splashed its contents right onto her friend. Turning to Uka, Serena apologized for her friend's rude behavior. The next day on the school rooftop, Serena found herself surrounded by her friends, all demanding an apology for her outburst. But Serena, feeling she had done nothing wrong, refused to back down. The situation escalated, and one of them looked ready to strike her. That's when Uka walked in, accidentally stumbling onto the scene. Without thinking, Uka stepped in to defend Serena, standing up to the group. Just as things seemed about to get out of hand, Kai appeared, standing by Uka's side. The bullies quickly realized they were outnumbered and backed off. On the rooftop, Uka couldn't help but notice the lingering bond between Kai and Serena. She saw how Kai still cared for her, even though he never spoke of their past. Uka couldn't help but feel a little insecure, especially when comparing herself to the beautiful Serena. She felt like she didn't measure up. Later, while chatting with Serena and Ayumi, Uka learned more about how Kai and Serena had first met. In middle school, Serena had been severely bullied by her friends, even more than Uka had ever experienced. During that time, Kai had always been there for her, standing up against the bullies. But as Serena grew, she realized she couldn't keep relying on Kai for everything. That was the reason for their breakup. Serena reassured Uka that their connection was no longer a thing of the past. Still, Uka wasn't so sure. She couldn't shake the feeling that Serena still had lingering feelings for Kai. As a result, Uka began pulling away from Kai, though she didn't explain why. Despite her coldness, Kai didn't give up on her. He kept trying to reach out, determined to understand what had changed. Then, one evening at a festival, Kai finally confronted Uka. He asked, "Why have you been so distant?" Uka stayed silent, her face hard like stone, unwilling to open up. But Kai wasn't going to let her shut him out. He gently took her hands, looking deep into her eyes, and said something that caught Uka off guard. "You might try to hide it, but in my eyes, you're like a precious gem, shining bright. No matter how tough you seem, you're important to me." Uka's eyes welled up with tears at his words. She had always tried to protect herself by building walls, but in that moment she realized just how much she cared for Kai. Once again, he comforted her, gently soothing her sorrow. It was then that Uka finally understood. She was deeply in love with Kai. A few days passed since the festival, and Uka still had no idea about the two very different lives Kai was leading. It turned out that Kai worked as a part-time bartender at a local bar to support himself, living alone. But the strain from his busy schedule had started to wear him down, leaving him sick and unable to attend school. Uka, worried about him, gathered her courage and decided to visit him after school. When Uka arrived at Kai's apartment, she found him in a bad state, burning with a high fever and fainting from exhaustion. Without hesitation, Uka rushed to his side, making him a comforting bowl of porridge and taking care of him. As she spent the day by his side, Uka began to notice something she had never thought about before. She had never seen his parents. Kai explained they were living abroad, leaving him to manage everything on his own. Kai eventually recovered and returned to school, but things started to change. Wherever Kai went, girls seemed to swarm around him, hoping to catch his attention. This newfound popularity only made Uka feel more insecure. Tomoya, noticing the growing tension, confronted Kai. He warned Kai that his popularity could end up messing with his relationship with Uka. Feeling the need to reassure Uka, Kai wrote a heartfelt note in her notebook, promising that no matter where she went, he'd always need her by his side. He vowed to search for her, no matter what. But Uka, still struggling with her own self-doubt, wasn't able to fully embrace his love just yet. Taking Ayumi's advice to heart, Uka gathered her courage and decided to confess her feelings to Kai. To her surprise, Kai didn't just say anything. He kissed her on the lips. From that moment on, they proudly showed their relationship to everyone. But not everyone was supportive. Some of their friends doubted their compatibility, saying Uka didn't deserve someone like Kai. In response, Kai stood his ground, openly declaring to the school that they were officially together. As the days passed, Uka and Kai's bond grew stronger. They spent time together, studying and visiting their favorite spots. But just as things were starting to feel perfect, their intimacy was shaken. One day, Uka wrote a question in Kai's journal, asking about his family background. As soon as he read it, his entire demeanor changed. He became distant, refusing to talk about his family and shutting Uka out. This shift in Kai's behavior left Uka confused and hurt. She didn't understand why he was suddenly so closed off. Tomoya, sensing the tension, decided it was time to let Uka in on a secret. He told her about Kai's part-time job as a bartender. Driven by concern, Uka went straight to the bar to find Kai. When he saw her at the entrance, he quickly pulled her away, clearly panicked. Uka demanded to know why he had kept his job a secret. She didn't understand what was wrong with him working at a bar because it wasn't a bad thing. But Kai disagreed. He told her that the bar was part of the nightlife world, a world he felt was not suitable for someone like Uka. Uka couldn't accept that reasoning. She firmly believed that, as his girlfriend, she had the right to know where he was, regardless of the situation. Kai, however, felt uncomfortable with Uka's intrusion into his life. He didn't want her to see that side of him, that part of his world. Without offering any more explanations, he walked away, leaving Uka standing there, heartbroken and confused. On Christmas Eve, Uka and her friends celebrated together, laughter filling the air. Unfortunately, Kai couldn't join them because of his work commitments. Still, he couldn't resist checking Uka's social media later, seeing photos of their joyful moments. His heart swelled with emotion as he realized just how much Uka truly meant to him. Determined to make things right, Kai abruptly left his job and set out to find Uka. But when he arrived at the Christmas Eve celebration, he found only his friends, with Uka nowhere in sight. Surrounded by his friends, Kai admitted he'd kept his personal life hidden and apologized for not being honest with them. His friends, understanding his reasons, reassured him that they had his back. They told him Uka had left, heading toward the place where they'd first met. Without wasting a moment, Kai borrowed Satoru's bicycle and rushed off to find her. At last, Kai reached the spot where Uka had gone. As he spotted her, he knew it was time to answer the question she had asked him in his journal. With tears welling up in his eyes, Kai began to write his answer, finally opening up to her. He revealed that his mother had passed away when he was just 3 years old, and his father had vanished during his final year of middle school. Since then, he had been living alone, carrying a deep fear that the people he loved would leave him behind. As Kai spoke, Uka's heart ached for him, and in that moment she promised she would always be by his side, no matter what. The weight of his past was now shared between them, and their bond grew stronger than ever. The film ends, leaving the future wide open, with Uka and Kai walking together into a life filled with love, understanding, and a shared commitment to one another. So the moral of the story is, you don't have to face everything alone. Opening up, asking for help, and being real with the people who care about you can change everything.